As I was typing the script for this podcast, two of our grown girls were sitting and playing guitar, and they were harmonizing a Spanish folk song, in Spanish, of course. Now, they weren't practicing for a class or a production. They simply liked the song they were singing, and they wanted to try it. Both had other opportunities for spending their time on that morning. They could have been scrolling, which, they did use their cell phones to find the chords for the song. Or they could have been playing video games or watching a movie or going on a long ride to wherever they wanted to go. But they were enjoying something very old and very analog. Along the same lines, Friday night, the fire pit that I had ordered came. So the kids wanted to start a fire. When I say kids, I'm mostly grown, mostly grown people in our house. They wanted to have a fire that night in the fire pit, and we wanted to do hot dogs and marshmallows. So I gathered all the stuff together. They put the fire together, and we sat around, and they declared that it was a poetry night. And so everybody grabbed their cell phones, and we looked up all the cool, poets that we could find, and everyone shared. Now, this included Tennyson and Byron and Rossetti and Robert Frost, and even some of their own compositions. Okay, now this is not strange in our mega-sized homeschooling family. It is actually quite typical. Hey there, mommies. This is Sherry Hayes. I'm the mom, and the very interesting mom, of 15 lively children. I've been homeschooling for over 36 years, and I love sharing things with mommies that will add to their life. So if you can think of something you need to be doing right now, like maybe shaving your legs, go grab that and stick with me while we dig into the good life in Jesus. Okay. Now, this gives me, like I said, it's not strange in our family for people to do things like this all the time, okay? And it gives me reason to share with you and encourage you today. I'd like to start with this biblical maxim. Remember this. Now, this is from 2 Corinthians 9:6, and this is the Berean version, I think. Okay. Remember this. Whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. And it's one of those rules, right? You only get out in accordance to the measure you put in. It's a lot like buying a puppy on a whim as a Christmas present. At first, everyone is enamored with the warm and cute and fuzzy creature. But then the puppy grows up and the cuteness goes away. Sadly, most Christmas puppies end up at the pound after a stint of starving for attention in the backyard. I mean, people usually feed them and they clean up after them, but, that's just the dog. Oh, the dog's barking again. But, but we have, if you're purposeful about getting a dog, right? And if you welcome that dog into your family, in your life, things are different, aren't they? Our son-in-law is a great example of this. His wise parents, who were also homeschooling parents, he was homeschooled, told him that if he wanted to keep a dog, he would have to attend a 4-H course and learn to care for and train that dog, right? So since he had fallen in love with a puppy he found drowned and then he had revived it, he studied diligently because he definitely wanted to keep this dog. So then after he had studied and he went through the course, then he applied what he learned and trained this dog very, very well. So his name was Rover. And Rover was trained so well that he was welcomed everywhere he went. I mean, we had him over at our house a lot. Our son-in-law made sure that he included Rover in almost everything he did. Now, he even included Rover in his courtship with our daughter. Because when Rover needed to be exercised. So they would take Rover on long walks together. And sometimes Rover would be so exhausted he'd be like dragging because they would have a long walk. Oh, wait. Anyway, Rover was their chaperone. Now, Rover went with that family after my daughter and her husband were married. He went with them overseas. And he was there in South Korea, and he was there even when they had their baby, right? And he was watching over that baby. And by that time, though, Rover was an older dog, and he contracted some cancer, and he was dying. And so the last day of his life, they took him to the beach, a beach where he had loved to run and bark at the waves. One of our daughters did a painting of our son-in-law holding this precious dog because he was too weak to walk to the waves. So he waded out into the water and he held him and let him look, and he was saying goodbye. And our whole family mourned when this dog went because he had been part of our entire lives. Now, Rover added to our lives because of the effort that our son-in-law poured into him. And this is the same for homeschooling. I know I used a heart-wrenching dog story. We can all relate to that. And I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to be too sentimental, but it's one of those stories that really hits your heart. And homeschooling is the same. Okay. Now, homeschooling has become a pretty broad term. I mean, really, what we look at the word homeschool, it's supposed to mean that everything people do in school, they do at home. Right? You want your child to have a good education, so whatever they're doing in school, that's what we're doing at home. Now, I believe that most officials see it this way. The expectation then is built on the school model. Now, the school model is that a child must be in a classroom. Now, it doesn't mean they're actually learning anything. They just have to be physically in a classroom setting for 1,080 aggregate hours of pupil instruction. Now, that's from official stuff. Or that turns into 180 days or 9 months of the year. So this means education in a child's life is compartmentalized, right? There are hours when a child is learning and in hours when they're not learning. So I did the math, and there are 8,760 total hours in a year. So if you subtract 1,080 learning hours, that leaves 7,680 hours, and then you subtract just the sleeping time from that, which is 2,900. I'm sorry, that's 2,920 hours when you're asleep. And that leaves 4,760 hours of non-learning per year. Okay, so that's a lot of hours when kids aren't supposed to learn anything. Stop learning. This is not learning hours anyway. Now, this measurement system is necessary bureaucratically because there are things such as budgets and reports which must be issued in order for people to receive paychecks and all that kind of stuff, right? But unfortunately, when they measure homeschooling, this is the standard they use as well. And so this gets in our minds, and we are thinking, well, gee, 1,080 hours, that's all we have to do, And so we're just, we've got this bureaucratic mindset we bring with us into homeschooling. We become convinced we can continue to compartmentalize learning. We can live as usual and then just add some books and tests in during certain hours. And there are lots of us that do that, and we get away with it. We're living all right, but we kind of miss out on the richness of an integrated learning life. Not just having homeschooling or learning within a certain window every day, but just integrate learning into everything. And I think a lot of you are already there, but I thought I'd talk about it anyway because it was on my heart. Okay. Now, if we can live an integrated learning life, this is a life where connections are made, okay? Connections between language and science and art and history, right? Connections between historical events and modern times. Connections between Bach and math. Connections between the heavens, the earth, and God, right? An integrated educational life is where relationships are enhanced, okay? The kind of education we're used to is an interruption to relationships because you have to be separated from people and put in groups, and you can't, the sides can't touch, right? But when we are integrated in our learning, when we put our entire selves into homeschooling, we realize our role shifts from lawgiver and spectator in our children's lives to participator. We don't sit on the couch and watch the lives of our children go by, right? We get down on the floor with them and we allow ourselves to become immersed in their discoveries, trials, and their triumphs. We become a part of their lives. Instead of being pitted against each other, okay, our children see each other, their siblings, as best friends. They have numerous shared experiences along with shared toys and rooms. They move from adversaries to advocates, and even the bickering is building in them loyalty and the ability to work through the hard parts of togetherness, right? Because when you're together with someone for a number of hours a day, you're going to have some conflict, and you're going to have to learn to work through that and still stay loyal and still want to love that person through the hard things, aren't you? Now, when we have integrated learning, human relationships are prioritized over facts and figures. Now, one of our daughters is in the midst of attaining a 2-year degree so she can teach art and English in a private Christian school. Okay. That's what the parents wanted. They have to have that reassurance that this person is doing a good job. So they said, well, you have to have a 2-year degree. So as a consequence, she's taking a lot of, the typical educational philosophy classes, learning about important people such as Horace Mann. Okay. So in one of her classes, one of her instructors said this phrase: remember, our goal here is to train children to be good workers. Yes, she actually put it into words and said it out loud, what we all suspected anyway. This instructor instructing potential teachers said that phrase. Now, she didn't say, remember, our goal here is to train good people. She didn't say, we are training complete human beings capable of love and heroism. She didn't say that. She didn't say, we're here training good husbands and mothers. No, she said, we're training good workers. All right. While a good work ethic is naturally a part of homeschooling, it is kept in its proper place. The emphasis is not on landing a good job as an end in itself, but is merely a portion of a full, rich life. Also, when we integrate learning into everything, life is slowed down and relished. When we get up early, it's not so we can jump onto the treadmill. We rise early to savor each small step into the day. The smell of bacon cooking, the color of the sky as the sun rises, and the greeting of maybe a little whiskery wagging puppy. Now, wholehearted homeschooling is not without cost. Okay. When we step out of the torrent, it doesn't slow down with us. It keeps roaring on past at breakneck speed. While we are basking in the analog, the digits continue to tick. We may lose a few things because of this dichotomy, and those who are still caught up in the current may consider us backwards or too deep or too serious. Our interests are too broad. Our scope is too eternal. I must admit, our children's souls have been so fattened by feasting on the best that they find it hard to settle for what passes as modern conversation. They yearn to be able to discuss truth that goes deeper than a wading pool with those they meet out of the community. But they do eventually make connections and develop long-lasting relationships, just not 100 shallow ones. Instead of being known for what they do, they are known for who they are. The ones who can be counted on and the ones who can be trusted. They know how to think and they know how to contribute. And I sit back and marvel as I watch them blossom wherever they go. Seeing the harvest of 1,000,000 seeds prayerfully planted and watched over, continually trusting God to do His miracles in their lives. I hope this podcast has blessed you today, and I hope it stays with you as you are walking slowly through your day with your children. And if you want to hear this as a podcast, it's on all the different streaming services. I'm on Substack now, so I have an email version of this, a post version that you can read. I'm on there as Mom Delights, Sherry Hayes. So I hope you will take advantage of that. And I hope you will have a wonderful day in Jesus. Bye-bye.